spending time together, and life gets busy, and it's not so easy to see the family, especially when they live, 8-10 hours apart. It's a great place to do it.
The Season 4 premiere of Pressure to Rise, coming to YouTube Thursday, October 3rd.
Welcome back to New Jersey Motorsports Park for Superbikes at New Jersey. We just wrapped up that first qualifying session of Supersport. And before we turn our attention over to the next qualifying session, which is Superbikes, let's go ahead and hear from our Stock 1000 pole sitter with Joe.
Hayden, that was tremendous. 1.5 seconds faster than the rest of the field. With all that you're battling, how much confidence does that give you ahead of this important weekend?
It's good. Obviously, we don't know what tomorrow morning's going to look like. So, I saw it was drying a little bit and had a pretty good dry line, so we kind of went for it with some slicks, and it was tough. I was behind a bunch of guys there starting that last lap, and we barely made it out in time to even get the lap. So, I'm happy with how it's looking, and yeah, it's good to start the weekend off fastest in qualifying one. We'll see what tomorrow morning looks like. It looks like it might rain tonight, and the way it's kind of drying, it might not be dry in time in the morning. So that's kind of what we were gambling on, and I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a long weekend. It's going to be a tough weekend, but yeah, we're just having fun.
Our championship leader hoping for a bit of rain there tomorrow. Provisional pole. Back to you, Jamie and Roger.
Keeping it fun with the big smile on his face. Superbike now out on the racetrack. Roger, 3 races back at COTA. Take a look at these highlights.
And it was hot as well. It was a lot of work for the Superbike guys. Josh Herron, great start. Cam Beaubier also kind of the top 3. Sean Dale and Kelly, these 3 guys, all 3 races was kind of the class of the field. Ezra Beaubier loses an engine, some fluid on the track, red flag, we restart. Another really good start from Josh Herron there down into turn 1. But it's the same 3 again. Sean Dillon Kelly, Cam Beaubier, Loris Baz also there, solid ride early on into this race. Cam Beaubier making his way toward the lead, and it seemed like every time Cam went to the front, Josh fired right back immediately. He knew that Cameron might have had a little bit better pace and wanted to control the race. That was a great pass there. Into the last corner, these 2 went back and forth. Every time it seemed like any corner hard on the brakes, they were trading paint. But for Cam Beaubier, last couple laps, was able to get the win. Josh Herron second, Sean Dillon Kelly rounding out the podium. That was a great race. That was fun to watch those 2 duke it out.
It was certainly one of the best Superbike races in terms of overall action I've seen in a long time. But take a look at the championship points standings for Josh Herron coming into this weekend. He has a 46-point gap over second place of Cam Beaubier.
And that's comfortable. That's why I think he was pushing so hard in that 3rd race. If he would have won it, he would have locked up the title and got to come this weekend and enjoy it. But he's got a little bit more work to do. And for Josh, he's been in these situations before, and he just has to play his cards right.
You see the number 6 there of Cam Beaubier. He won 2 of the 3 races that we had at Circuit of the Americas. If you remember, he had to sit out a couple of races after an injury that he suffered mid-season, and been able to claw himself back into this championship hunt, sitting 2nd right now. What can he do this weekend?
Well, all he can do is win. I mean, that's all he can hope for, is go out there and get 2 wins. And, you never know what happens, especially with track conditions the way it is this weekend. We've seen him have a mistake at MotoAmerica on Saturday and be out 2 races that weekend. So for Cam, he just has to go out and win. That's all he can do, and hopefully something falls his way. But he's got a big hill to climb.
6 wins on the season, the most of anybody in the Supersport the Superbike category. 11 podium finishes. Very consistent when he is out there is what's put him in this position. But for Josh Herron, what he's been able to do the second half of this season, he didn't get his first win until 7 races in. You see a Herron out on the racetrack now with that number 2 Ducati. He didn't get his first win until we were at Road America, but he's won 5 times since.
And a lot of those races, he's won them in different ways. He's checked out and won a race, and he's also been in some dog fights and other races where he used his experience, where he set the pace, and he didn't want other riders at the front, in case they were a little bit quicker, they could get away, and just use that experience, and that's racecraft. And Josh Herron has showed it this year, and he's really earned where he's at. He's been great, and he's won 5 Superbike races this year. It's just been an incredible year for Josh. And the races where he didn't have the speed to win, he still seen the checkered flag and took the points. And now he comes in here with the big points lead.
Big points lead they've had in the championship standings. But one of the things that Josh Herrin does not enjoy is racing in the rain.
Hey, I think Josh is going to be one person that's going to definitely not enjoy the rain. But, you know, I've seen him have some really bad races in the rain, and then I've also seen him win a Superbike race about 30 seconds in the rain. So it's just kind of all about confidence. But I think when you're going for a championship like this, you would rather just be dry and not have that, you know, another factor to go into play.
If you're joining us here on YouTube, welcome to this bonus coverage of MotoAmerica Live Plus, our all-day action from each and every round of MotoAmerica competition. We bring you all the qualifying sessions and races live and in their entirety, some bonus content as well. One of the things we now know is if you have a MotoAmerica Live Plus subscription, you're able to watch the first 3 episodes of the new season of Pressure to Rise. A lot of tremendous behind-the-scenes content there is throughout the rest of the season. Josh Herrin, you see the number 2 Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati rider, currently leading the Superbike standings as he looks to become a champion again.
And you can just tell Josh so far this weekend with the track being a little bit tricky. You know, he's not taking any unnecessary risks. He's kind of slowly working, you know, his way toward the front.
Cameron Peterson there on the number 45. He's sitting 5th in the championship standings, 3 wins on the season, but it's all or nothing. And if you're a fan of MotoAmerica, you can pick your favorite rider for a chance to win money. Available on your favorite sports books and daily fantasy sites like DraftKings and Underdog Fantasy. Just visit nxtbets.com/playma for exclusive sign-up bonuses for new players. You can even receive some bonus cash. Available in legal states. Just check nxtbets.com/playma to see where you can play as we continue to watch Cameron Peterson, who's 2nd this morning in practice. Roger, knowing what you know with implications of the championship, who would you put your money on this weekend?
You know, it's really hard to bet against Cam Beaubier. I think Josh will play it safe, at least on Saturday. But I'm going to go Loris Baz, and I'm going to hope it rains and try to really double up.
Loris Baz was leading the practice session this morning, so that would be a pretty safe bet. We know how hard those 2 teams, the 2 bikes from the Ducati stable, have been working throughout the season to get Loris closer to the mark. This is a track that he has a little bit more experience at. The team has more experience at, being based in the area. Cameron Peterson, great to see him at the top of the chart, but there's Loris Baz.
Yeah, great session for Loris, and even the last couple races, he's been, you know, consistently inside the top 5 and qualifying well. You know, a couple of the races, I think he expected a little bit more after his qualifying, but he's definitely, that second race at Coda, he kept those leaders in sight for the whole race.
Back to Cameron Peterson.
Peterson's another guy, you know, if it does rain, that is won a race in a couple races this year in the rain. So, you know, he'd be a guy to look for.
He continues to improve his pace, a 1:28.8 for Cameron Peterson. Certainly the best time that we've seen in the changing conditions here today. As you see the number 34, that's Xavi Flores. We saw some highlights from him earlier on in this MotoAmerica Live Plus coverage from a couple years ago as he went on to win the Supersport title. He's been the Super Sub here this season in the Superbike category. Filling in now for Jake Gagne. If you weren't with us earlier, Jake Gagne's been sitting out the last 4 races of the season to get himself ready for 2025 and recover from injury.
Yeah, this is hard for Xavi to jump in and you know, get on the Superbike in a really competitive class that, you know, everybody's already had almost a full year. So Xavi's did a great job, but that's a tough order.
Going back to Josh Herrin. 1:36.8, moving himself up into the 6th position in the early stages. This is a 40-minute qualifying session for Superbike. So for a lot of these riders, it's all about just working on race pace here at the early stages. At the end of the Stock 1000 qualifying session that just wrapped up, we saw some riders make the decision to go ahead and switch over to slicks.
And I think that could possibly be what you're seeing now. You know, they possibly went out on range just to check the track. You know, I think for some riders right now, they're probably not going to push too hard, knowing that, you know, in 30 minutes or in 20 minutes, how much more the track's going to be dry. they can go out there. Look at Richie Escalante. It's definitely a rain front for him. So those guys will be changing that. But right now with the track the way it is, you want to go out there. You always want to get laps and just see, because you never know going into the race. Like you want to know where the slick spots are. It could be exactly like this in race 1 or race 2. So get out there and get a couple laps and look at it, even though you do know toward the end it's going to be a lot quicker.
And for these teams, all of the mechanics up and down pit lane, it's not as easy as just putting on a slick tire. There are other adjustments that the teams have to make as well.
Yeah, and you see them making the adjustments right there. You know, a lot of riders are a little bit closer these days than it used to be. We used to really soften up the bike. You know, we heard, somebody talking about just being smooth and easy in the wet. You soften up the bike, make it a little bit easier to ride, less stiff. Also, like with electronics, you can get in there, and what you would do is a little less power off the corners. And so everything just slows down a little bit. So you're right, there's more than just changing out the wheels. There's a lot that goes into it. Even for the riders as well, you know, with their helmets, they have rain shields, they have bigger knee pucks. So it's hard.
We saw Cam Beaubier there changing out his knee pucks, actually, as the team was making the changes on the bike. As we go back out to the racetrack, Loris Baz there on the number 76 with his teammate Josh Herron right in front of him. We saw this in the early stages where these two riders would go out together. They'd go back and forth for a couple of laps, but they always stayed on the track together. We haven't seen it the last couple of rounds.
Well, even this time, I think really they didn't get out there together, but Loris is 5 seconds quicker than Josh right now, so he kind of caught him from, a little ways back as Josh is kind of taking things easy. So it could be good for Josh. Let Loris get in front of him and kind of watch and see where the track's at.
There's the number 40, Sean Dylan Kelly, able to get his first Superbike win in the second race back at Circuit of the Americas. That was a special moment to watch for him as he's made this transition up to Superbike this year after spending 2 years over in Europe in Moto2, coming off of a Supersport title for himself here in MotoAmerica, but he proved himself to be a quick learner.
Yeah, just what an impressive year he's had. And we see Josh, the two teammates there. Looks like Josh is really going to cut a lot of time there. Move himself up to 4th. But back to Sean Dylan Kelly, just so impressive what he's did this year, him and his team, and getting that first win. You could just see after a couple of years what it meant to Sean.
Saw Josh looking over his shoulder, communicating something to Loris. So he just gave him the nod, telling Loris, now you go in front of me, let me watch. There's JD Beach, the number 95, teammate to Cameron Beaubier. He's had some up and down this weekend as this season has continued on, trying to get more comfortable aboard that BMW. But he did have a great race here a year ago, Roger.
Yeah, winning that race in the rain last year as a fill-in guy for Cam Peterson. So he's definitely a guy that likes the wet, set some strong races in the wet. But as you mentioned, has just struggled this year to find that confidence to get comfortable to push. And he's just kind of, some weekends it looks like he's getting a little bit closer. But just the big thing is just trying to find the limit. He can't find the limit and get that confidence to be able to do it. But I know JD's working hard to try to fix it.
But you brought up the point that he was a fill-in rider the last couple of years, and being able to be on one bike for the whole season with the same team, that's going to help him going into the offseason and then getting himself ready for the future.
Yeah, it'd be huge, especially if, they run it back next year. He's going to show up at all the races a little further ahead. So it's always nicer to get 1 year under your belt. And hopefully you're on the same thing headed into the following year.
You can now see through the cameras the dry line that is developing here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. There's the number 50 of Bobby Fong. He did the most laps this morning in the practice session. We saw him lead the championship after winning both races back at Brainerd. Then had some struggles in the couple of races following that. Still sitting inside of the top 3 right now, but it's really tight there between himself, Sean Dylan Kelly, and Cam Peterson, all of them wanting to end inside of the top 3.
It's been a great year for Bobby and that team. What they did in Superbike, winning a couple races and being in the hunt to win some other races. And for Bobby, just been a really strong year back in Superbike and also for that team.
Yeah, Wrench Motorcycles, their privateer Yamaha operation, able to better out the factory at several of the races this year, a lot of the races. Actually, that team just starting to develop all of their own parts and pieces and then putting them into motion out on the racetrack. They've certainly learned a lot as the season has progressed. You see all of the improvement that's happening out on the racetrack right now. I mentioned this is a 40-minute qualifying session. We still have over 24 minutes remaining, but you can see how each rider that we're following around the track improving each and every sector around.
And it's just going to continue now that it's drying. You know, if the sun would come out, it would dry a little bit quicker. We see Loris here going to lower his lap time, I believe, there to 27.9.
127.9, now 0.8 clear of second place, which is Cameron Peterson. See Cameron Beaubier there on the number 6. All the way down in 12th, but we did see them make the changes. I think he was one of the riders, to your point, Roger, that went out on the rain tire and then had to go to pit lane and spend some moments there getting everything switched over.
Yeah, he's definitely on the slicks now. And you know, that first lap, when you see some patches in a certain corners, you kind of really want to work your way into it and not just go for it right away. And I think Cam, you'll see him move up to 7th, but I think you'll see a huge improvement on this lap.
I think he's one of the riders we'll certainly have to watch over the next couple of laps to see what he's able to find. As JD Beach continuing to improve each lap. 135.95, another improvement for JD. We go back to Xavi Flores, still sitting in 4th.
You can see that under that bridge, there's still a little bit of a stream coming across the track, and the riders really pick their bikes up through there. Xavi goes into 2nd.
See him put his hand up, alerting anybody around him that he is going to start slowing. You see, go back to Cameron Beaubier. He is finding some improvement, but Cameron Peterson right behind him is on a lap right now that would put him below that provisional pole time set by Loris Baz. This is what we're going to see for the next 22 minutes.
Yeah, Cam Peterson's in a really good spot right now, able to get behind Beaubier and just kind of follow him and use him as a carrot, especially in conditions like this when a track's drying. It really does make a huge difference as these riders are starting to come through here. Look at Cam, they're able to get a really good drop through there, and you'll see the little stream on your left right behind those guys, and that's the only thing going to slow them up a little bit into that last corner.
As they take the stride, Cameron Beaubier at 128.113.
Peterson 27.0. Track is getting dry really quick now.
We have 2 riders that are down in the 127s. It is Cameron Peterson and Loris Baz. See if Sean Dillon Kelly pulling to the pits. We get Richie Escalante. Missed a big portion of the season following an incident after the race back at Road Atlanta. But he's gotten stronger and stronger each time he's been out. He even said it when we were at COTA that he wasn't sure he was going to be able to finish on the podium this season, but he was able to finish 3rd in the first race. Then he finished 4th in race number 2.
Yeah, just a really good week, a complete weekend for Richie Escalante there in the team. And I know this morning in the wet, he was taking it pretty easy. Having that big injury and coming back, you definitely didn't want to crash. But, you know, not only with his injury do you miss the riding and being with your team and getting better in that aspect, but you miss the training as well. And so it takes a little bit to get that fitness back.
Been a great start to this qualifying session for Cameron Peterson as he continues to improve each lap. That one there didn't find any improvement in the final 3 sectors, but sector 1 he was able to pick up just a little something as he remains the provisional pole sitter. You see Loris Baz there, his graphic up on the screen. You see Loris now working sector 3, being shown below that provisional pole time from Cameron Peterson. But it's about connecting the dots, and Loris has made the point a couple of times this season that if he could connect all of the dots, he would advance himself even more, and that's really the next stage that he needs.
Yeah, and this is so fast through here on a Superbike. you know, trying to get into this last corner. He might get held up a little bit, but Loris, like you said, just putting it all together. That's kind of been the thing, having complete weekends.
A 1:26.6 for Loris Baz as he puts himself back up into that provisional pole position, getting around Cameron Peterson there on that lap as we watch Bobby Fong, who he's gone personal best through the first 3 sectors, but not nearly as competitive as the rest of the field at this stage.
Yeah, just not comfortable with the track, and you can see it in his riding as well. And you know, definitely wouldn't expect Bobby to be where he's at. Big improvement that lap, but still 8 seconds.
That gap is tremendous as we now see Cameron Beaubier went red through first 3 sectors. As we watch him come across the stripe, it was a 1:26.0 for Cameron Beaubier, now nearly 6/10 clear of the rest of the field. Let's go down to Joe.
Sean, coming off that huge win at Coda, how have things changed for you in terms of confidence heading into this week?
Yeah, no, it's been a pretty fun week at home, really taking in that first win and feeling pretty good, feeling confident, just honestly just trying to really enjoy this last weekend of the season, and feeling really, really happy.
Excellent. Well, it's a pleasure to see you smiling as always. Your big win on your rookie season. He's getting back out there on the bike now for the rest of Q1.
He is one of those riders, Joe, that you can tell he's smiling even with the helmet on. Just brings so much joy every time he goes out there, and you can really tell how much he's enjoyed being back in the MotoAmerica paddock.
Oh yeah, and these last 20 minutes of this qualifying is going to be really important. You know, we've talked a lot already about the weather, but tomorrow's morning's qualifying could be wet and then dry for the race. This could be your only session to get the bike set up in dry conditions. So it's going to be, I think you'll see a lot of riders, and the setup is going to change as they get quicker. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of guys get out there and try to make the best of this last 18 minutes.
This is also a 40-minute qualifying session compared to what's planned for tomorrow at 10:20, where the track could still be wet. That session is only a 30-minute session, so being able to work on both race pace as well as just getting yourself in a good qualifying position, these last 17 minutes are hugely important.
Yeah, and also if it's dry, to be able to sit down with your crew and look at data and make some changes, and you know, in case it is dry tomorrow. So it's just really important able to get out there in all the conditions, and right now you can see that the riders are really get their heads down.
Back to Richie Escalante, currently sitting in 9th, but the lap that he's on right now is a big improvement for him. You can see there that he's currently almost 6.5 seconds off of that pole time, but the lap that he's on, his personal best, is closing that gap by almost 3 seconds. You see Loris Baz on that number 76. Ducati made the announcement a couple races ago now that they like what they're getting out of having 2 Ducatis out there, and we know we're going to have 2 Ducatis out there again next season.
Yeah, and that's great, and I think also too it helps the team, and you don't get double the data throughout the weekend. We've seen these 2 teammates, Loris and Josh, working together all year in practice and qualifying. So I think it's been huge, and it's great to see Ducati back in the paddock and able to know that they're going to be here for a couple more years.
That was a big lap for Loris Baz, staying in 2nd place, but closing the gap to Cameron Beaubier to just over a 10th. But for Cameron Peterson, 1:26.0, taking over that 2nd place position from Loris Baz, putting himself just under 0.07 of a second off a pole.
Josh is really picking it up too now that the track is drying out. Just kind of smart. When it was wet and little iffy, didn't take many risks out there and just kind of waited for the track to get better.
As everyone continues to find more pace and get more comfortable with the dry racetrack, Roger, to me one of the things that's encouraging for the racing to come this weekend is that when one bike, no matter which brand it is, gets quicker, there's another bike there that's there to answer.
Especially with the, you know, even with this track being really small, you know, it's always creates big groups because it's not really long to kind of separate each other. So every lap you just see so many different positions, even in practice and qualifying. But the weather like this, one guy goes to the top of the board and the next lap, you know, he's 6th by the time he comes around. It's Loris Baz now, first rider into the 25s.
Loris Baz to the top with that 1:25. Cameron Beaubier sitting on pit lane. See what changes they can make. He was already there for several moments early on in this session. what he's able to come back out with as we watch Sean Dillon Kelly continuing to improve.
Also for this team, you know, this is their first time getting the electronics and the bike set up for dry conditions at this track. It's their first year. They can go back to last year's notes and figure out, you know, what worked in the dry because they wasn't here. So this is a lot to take on during this last 15 minutes for these guys.
Talks about Cam Beaubier being down on pit lane. Now he's standing by with Joe.
Cam, well, looking strong out there at the moment, the second fastest. You've come in for a bit of a long pit stop. Why is that?
Yeah, I came in, honestly, I was getting some pretty good mist on the backside of the track. And it was freaking me out a little bit. I wanted to try to put in a good lap. Yeah, I mean, bike feels pretty good. I'm really enjoying riding this bike around this place. I hope it dries up, or it's either, you know, full wet or full dry. But yeah, it's going good so far, and we'll see what we can do later in the session.
And of course, you have 46 points to make up to that championship lead, so you're going to have to push it, take a little bit of risk out there. How are you feeling, your mindset, knowing that?
Yeah, I mean, the only way we could pull it off is if we went and won both races, and you know, something happened to unfortunate happened to like the Ducati team. But yeah, you can't really think like that. Those guys did a great job this year. And yeah, I mean, yeah, they deserve it. So hats off to those guys. And yeah, we're just gonna go, and like I said, it's pretty much out the window. We're gonna go focus on each race and give it everything we got, and try to end the season on a strong note.
Well, excellent racing and amazing comeback so far this season. Back to you, Jamie and Roger.
Thanks, Joe. As other riders continuing to improve. That's interesting what Cameron Beaubier, with all of his experience and race wins, just said, Roger, that he's getting a little freaked out with all of that spray.
Yeah, and when the spray, it's kind of hard to tell how wet it really is. So for Cam, you know, coming back from a big injury too, that kind of plays into the factor as well when track conditions are a little bit iffy. You don't want to find yourself back on the ground. I mean, you think about he broke his heel. That's a really big injury.
Team continuing to talk to the team there. There's no hurry, there's no rush, there's no angst, and that really just comes down to all of the experience. The feedback that he's able to provide when he is out there on the racetrack, it's enough to work with.
Yeah, and with his experience, he knows that the track is going to be a lot better, and you know, 10 minutes or 7 minutes every lap. We see, like, look, Sean Dillon Kelly now, you know, the fastest rider. So doesn't want to take a chance, wait till the track keeps getting a little bit better. Then I think you'll see him go out and try to put a good lap in.
We watch Richie Escalante finish out this lap. He improves a 1:28.367, still sitting down there in 8th place, but continuing to find a little bit more each and every time around the racetrack with just over 12 minutes remaining in this session. We'll see how low he can get as Sean Dillon Kelly finishes that lap out at 1:26.0. He lost a lot of time there in Sector 3.
Yeah, lost some time. We see Richard Kerr there. Crash, getting back on track there. Gonna have to bring it in the pits to get the windscreen fixed. We'll see what happened here down into turn 5. I think on the brakes, by the time we get him in the camera angle, he's already down, so probably on the brakes down into turn 5.
There is Josh Herron off the bike. 11.5 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. You can see him taking the gloves off there, shaking his head, talking to the team. What do you want from the end of this first qualifying session, Roger?
Just to be comfortable, you know, for Josh. He obviously wants to be on the front row or, you know, pole position. But this weekend, I think the strategy's a little bit different. Just something that's comfortable, you know, keep Josh relaxed. And really, I think that's just the most important thing. Just keep him relaxed and happy.
He talked about that a lot on our preview show. If you're watching this bonus coverage on YouTube, the only place you can get all of the behind-the-scenes action is on MotoAmerica Live Plus and our preview shows each weekend. Today we talked to everybody that was going for the championship title, and even in the case of Matthew Chapin, has already locked up a championship. And one of the things that Josh Herron really talked a lot about was how mental this stage of the season is for him, and how his team, everybody that you saw down there around him, really has to pump him up each time. As you see Sean Dillon Kelly improving to a 1:25.286, putting himself on provisional pole.
It's just been so impressive what this team and Sean has did on the first sessions and the Fridays toward the end of the year. Beginning of the year, they struggled a little bit in the first sessions, and now at COTA, he was first on the very first practice, and they never even been there, you know, on that bike. And just really impressive what they're doing. And, you know, not only for Sean, but you have to give the team a lot of credit as well.
One of the big things with Sean Dillon Kelly and making this move to Superbike, and with a new team and a new organization, you know, it comes down to having the right people in the right places. And for Sean to feel comfortable, one of the things that he really asked for and pushed for was to get Jeremy Toy, his crew chief from his Supersport championship, over there with him. And the two of them have figured this program out together.
Yeah, and it's huge to have a guy like that in your camp, in your corner, because, you know, you want a guy that you trust, that you know that's going to fight for you and give you everything they got, and always look out for your best interest. And I think he has that. And for Sean, it's great to see. He's had a rough couple years mentally, and to be able to bounce back has been fun to watch.
Yeah, you saw him in that interview with Joe several moments ago now, but that was, he said, we're just having fun. We just want to end this season out having fun.
And right now, they, you know, a good thing for them, they don't have a ton of pressure on them. They want to go out and win, and hopefully next year they want to come to this race and have tons of championship pressure on them. But now they're just going to have fun this weekend and try to close the year out strong.
Right now, they're the ones putting the pressure on the rest of the Superbike field. As Sean Dillon Kelly, that last lap, just improved his provisional pole time to a 1:24.989. The only rider down into the 24s right now. So we see the number 96. This is Brandon Posh. Another one of those riders trying to get more comfortable over the course of the season.
He didn't get many laps this morning. They had seen that bike on pit lane working on it, so unfortunately for him, they didn't get a ton of laps, even though track conditions are different. But this is a track that Brandon's got a lot of laps. It's one of his home tracks, so I think he should do good this weekend, and he's on a good lap right now.
One of the riders here this weekend riding with a heavy heart. If you missed the beginning of our coverage today, our coverage this weekend being dedicated to the memory of Michelle Lindsay, the team principal here in MotoAmerica for TOBC, led Brandon Posh along with Danny Eslick and her whole team to wins at the Daytona 200, and unfortunately lost her courageous battle with pancreatic cancer on September 18th. Sean Dillon Kelly, though, another improvement there. Down now into the mid 124s. That is 3 laps in a row where Sean has bettered that provisional pole time.
Yeah, and we talk about race runs and consistent, able to back those laps up, and Sean seems like he's able to do it right now. But Brendan Posh through the first sector. You know, Brendan found a little bit of setup at COTA that second race. He, you know, had a really strong ride, and he's kind of carried that momentum over to this weekend. Even through the second sector, he's right there.
He did say that during the autograph session on Sunday, that despite the heat, having 3 races in a row for him and in that team, it was big for him in terms of being able to work on things. Very similar conditions through all of the sessions, and they were really able to take advantage of that.
Just the track time, and Brandon's young, and Superbike's, there's a lot to take on for a young guy. It's only his second year on the bike, and you know, each race you can make some changes and then go out, and as you said, the track conditions is the same, so you know, you really know if those changes work better or not. And it looks like for Brandon, he's getting a lot more comfortable.
A lot of good momentum to carry into the offseason, improving there to a low 125, a 125.0 for Brandon Posh, putting himself on that provisional front row right behind Sean Dillon Kelly. See if Sean Dillon Kelly can better it coming to the stripe here, a 124.618. That's 4 laps in a row now where Sean has been better than anybody else.
Yeah, and right now with the session winding down, he's probably going to try to see if he can't get back to the pits and might get a fresher tire and go out and see if he can't find himself a little bit slow, a little bit quicker. I think by the end of this session, these guys going to be pretty close to the low 24s if the track keeps improving.
And Cameron Peterson just crossed the stripe a moment ago and did his best lap of this first qualifying session, putting himself onto the provisional front row with a 125.0. Just on the outside of the 124s, looking in, just over 0.4 of a second separating the front two. Xavi Flores finding some improvement here, just over 5.5 minutes remaining in this 40-minute qualifier.
We've talked a lot about Loris Baz. You see on the bottom of the screen, he's on a good lap. He's really this whole weekend, even from the very first lap this morning, has lost a little bit there in the personal best in that second sector, but you can still see he lost 0.2 compared to the best lap.
There is the number 76 of Loris Baz. It's all about connecting the dots, the 4 sectors all going together. See in sector 3 what he's able to do. Xavi Flores also improving, as is Josh Herron. So for Loris Baz, that 3rd sector now put himself back below the provisional pole.
Has to get a good run out of that last corner, get this run down the front straightaway, and he does go to the top, 24.6.
Now 2 riders in the 124s. Loris Baz putting himself at the provisional pole. Sean Dillon Kelly, we now see sit on pit lane. We watched Xavi Flores finding some more pace at the end of this session.
Yeah, Xavi's going to move up quite a bit. Right now he's 7th. He crosses the finish line. He's going to move up to 5th. But not only that, he's only 8/10 from the top.
That is crazy when you look down. You've got Ducati, BMW, Yamaha, Suzuki, all of them within 0.5 of a second. Hearing from race control that the number 76, Loris Baz, our provisional pole sitter, has shortcut the track for the 3rd time.
You know, when you pull out of the pits, when you got 3 A, B, and C, some riders, if they see somebody slower in front of them, I'm not saying that would happen, but that's the only place you could really cut. He just went straight through there, not on his fast lap, but you can't do it on an in lap or an out lap as well.
Riders who cut the track, I'm just reading the bulletin that was issued to everybody beforehand. Riders who cut the track 3 or more times in a single session may be black flagged. So in the case of Loris Baz, we are at the end of this session, but he's going to have to watch where those lines are for the racetrack. As you saw Cameron Peterson there improving again to a 124.6.
This guy here's on a good lap.
Championship leader, this is Josh Herron. Huge points lead coming in, but if he could go into race number 1 and race number 2, it would be as the pole sitter. That would be huge for him and his confidence.
That would be huge. Lost some of that last sector though, so at least Josh knows where he's losing it. But Cam Beaubier, we'll see what he can do. We've seen him put in some really impressive laps this year toward the end of these qualifiers.
Josh now down into the 124s as well. So we watch Cameron Beaubier. He wasn't comfortable the last time out with the amount of spray he was still getting on a dry racetrack, improving now to a 125.5 for Cameron Beaubier, but all the way down in 7th. After that last lap where Loris Baz was able to put himself up into the provisional pole, he's on another lap here that's even better.
It's definitely improving, and we've seen how strong Loris has been this last sector.
Less than 2 minutes remaining in this qualifying session for Loris Baz, coming to the stripe, a 1:23.916. The first rider in the 123s, bettering that pole time and extending the gap now to 0.7 of a second over 2nd place. Cameron Beaubier, though, this lap could be the one that he's really going for it.
Yeah, this is a good lap for Cam through here. He's got to kind of try to get through this long right-handers, puts a lot of stress on the rear tires. See how long they are on the edge of the tire, and they kind of slow down through here. When you're pushing hard, that corner's kind of slow. It's hard not to rush it.
It's a quick transition back. Going through the 3rd sector, he lost a little bit of time, even though it was a personal best for him.
Still going to move up quite a bit.
Cameron Beaubier goes to number 2, a 124.241. Less than a minute remaining in this qualifying session. Brandon Posh, it's been a great qualifying session for him. A lot of consistency.
He was under through the first 2 sectors, and looks like he had to make a pass on somebody in sector 3. So he's got one more lap.
But a 124.8 for Brandon Posh. Even with as good as that lap was, still down in 6th place for Cameron Peterson here on the number 45. The Progressive Attack Yamaha. Personal best through the first 3 sectors improves to a 124.057. getting around Cameron Beaubier. Cameron Peterson now sits second, 15 seconds up on the clock. Josh Herron will get to finish out this lap. Cameron Beaubier is also on another flyer. Checkered flag has now been shown. These riders can finish this lap out. Josh Herron crossing the stripe, a 1:23.931, putting himself up into second place, and only 2 riders now in the 1:23s, but Cameron Beaubier. Right now, he would be 0.6 of a second below the pole time as we watch Beaubier cross the line, a 1:23.150, improving around Loris Baz. Goes Cameron Beaubier by over 0.7 of a second, but Loris Baz is not finished yet.
Yeah, Loris is on a really good lap through the first couple sectors. And this is where we're at. We've watched these whole sessions, and we've seen how strong Loris has been here in this last sector. So let's see if he can put another good one together.
Brandon Posh just put down a 1:23, also putting himself back up onto the second row for Loris Baz. He's got 1 sector left. A 1:22.737 for Loris Baz. You can see the excitement down there in the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati pit. Loris Baz to the top in dominating fashion, 0.4 of a second clear of second place. See Xavi Flores improving here at the end of this qualifying session. His best lap, that was a 1:24.2 for Xavi Flores, but it's all about Loris Baz. We'll talk to him when we come back right after this.